everybody made moves yesterday. There were some big ones. There was a big one in San Diego. Some have said the biggest ever, and pretty big in New York. I guess Houston did some stuff, but the Toronto Blue Jays were not absent from the equation. But the reaction I saw last night on the ball game was almost disappointed that the Blue Jays didn't land somebody. Dave Hodge, would you have? Well, first of all, let me start with this. Do you agree with them? Do you agree that the Blue Jays did a marginal job of executing the trade deadline?
I think the operative word is underwhelmed, and I would agree. But I would also add that I didn't expect to be overwhelmed. They weren't getting Juan Soto and they weren't getting Luis Castillo. I expected them to do basically what they did. They wanted bullpen depth, a bullpen arm that would be, would be better than average. That would be Anthony Bass. Zach Pop would be a depth guy. Whit Merrifield, I think, is with the Jays in part because of George Springer's elbow and what Whit Merrifield can do in other positions. And I'm hoping, for the Jays' sake, that they remember that he was second in the major leagues last year at stolen bases. And the Jays aren't a team that steals, because they're a team that hits home runs, and a team that hits home runs doesn't steal. But if you got a guy who can, among the best, he's not that this year, he's missed some time, of course. I would hope that the Whit Merrifield adds that element to the Jays' attack in the right place, of course. I mean, you see now, Vladimir Guerrero's that steals bases because the other team simply doesn't expect it. And, he's not going to do it very often, but Merrifield could. Then there's the question of his vaccination status. And all I would say about that is, if the Blue Jays traded for a guy who was going to remain unvaccinated, then the Jays simply made a dumb move. I would have to believe that they have reason to believe, or proof, that Whit Merrifield can cross the border and can play every game that they want him to play. But as yet, we don't have that proof from Merrifield, and we don't have that proof from the Jays. So that remains a question mark. And, in Kansas City, they hated the guy because he didn't come to Toronto and said, well, maybe if I played on a contending team, I'd get vaccinated, but I'm not going to bother playing for this team. Well, there'd be one reason they traded him.
Well, I agree with you, but I do think he will get vaccinated before he came. And I do believe the Blue Jays did go to him, because it would be ridiculous, not just stupid, but beyond stupid, to do that without talking to him in advance. So Whitfield will be here, or Merrifield will be here. I wonder where he plays on a regular basis. You're right, David. He can fill in for Springer in center field, but he is effectively an infielder.
Second base.
Second baseman more than anything else. And we got a guy at second base, and we got a guy at shortstop. So if he does not play in the outfield, would you spell him occasionally in the infield? It's not that easy to go from one to the other.
I mean, Espinal has quieted down, shall we say.
I agree.
And I think, if Springer can play, and who knows? The Jays don't seem to be that concerned. Every time I see him swing a bat, I would be concerned. But if Springer can play, then Merrifield's going to play second base, and Espinal's playing time will be reduced, and so will Kevin Biggio's time be reduced. And there's always the DH. So I think three positions: center field, second base, DH, and the amount of time in center field depends on Springer.
So you talked about the underwhelming level of what Ross Atkins did yesterday. How much do you think it has to do with the success this team has had under John Schneider?
Well, I think it has to do with the fact that they're in a playoff position now. I think they have every reason to believe that they will stay right where they are and host a first round playoff series at Rogers Center. You know, if they were going to make a big move, tell me who they were going to get rid of. You know, they like their team. Their team hits when it's hitting. Lately, not so much, but when it's hitting just about as well as anybody, maybe save the Dodgers and the Yankees. You know, the pitching, okay, beyond the first three starters, they needed something. Mitch White became that something. There's striplings there, Kikuchi, who knows. But you know, they weren't going to go out and get an ace, because they got what they consider to be three aces. Mm-hmm. And so we'll see what Mitch White can do. He's probably not going to give you more than Stripling gives you in terms of innings. But you know, is he better than Noah Syndergaard? I don't know. I'd flip a coin. I mean, Syndergaard's got the big name, but they were always going to try to get somebody to be the fourth starter, let's say, or the fifth. They weren't going to try to get Luis Castillo or Frankie Montas, and if they were trying, they probably wouldn't be able to anyway, unless they wanted to empty the farm system. And they got, you know, at least three guys there with, you know, gold stars all over them. And Jays fans should be happy that they did not do that. So I think they were in a position to do what they did, and they did what they did. And no, it's not going to excite anybody, but shouldn't, I don't think, disappoint anybody. Just make sure that they finish as the best wildcard team, and I don't know why they won't.
Well, I think Mitch White is worth talking about a little bit, David, because he's a guy who made 15 appearances this year for the Dodgers, 10 of them starts. And I think his ERA was around 3.7 or 3.4 or somewhere in that neighborhood. Yep. So he is not incompetent.